You're not behind. It just feels that way because everyone around you looks like they're moving faster, getting promoted, getting opportunities, getting recognition, and you're still here, doing the work, showing up every day, putting in the effort, and wondering why nothing is changing. So you start blaming yourself. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not working hard enough. Maybe I'm missing something. But what if that's not the problem? What if the reason you feel stuck is because you were never meant to move? Most people believe their job is a system that rewards effort. Work harder, get ahead. Do more, move up. Be reliable, and eventually, it pays off. That sounds fair. It sounds logical. But it's not how it actually works. Because your job doesn't exist to reward effort. It exists to extract it. Think about it. The more reliable you are, the more work gets assigned to you. The more problems you solve, the more problems you're expected to handle. The more you prove yourself, the more you're depended on. And at first, that feels like progress. People trust you. People rely on you. You become important. But that's where the trap starts. Because the moment you become too important in your current role, you become too expensive to move. Look at your own situation. You show up early, not because anyone forces you to, but because you care. You stay late. You finish things other people leave unfinished. You fix problems that weren't even yours to begin with. You become the person everyone goes to, and slowly, without realizing it, your role expands. More responsibility, more expectations, more pressure, but not more power, not more freedom, and definitely not more control, just more work. Now ask yourself this: if you disappeared tomorrow, who would replace you? And more importantly, how hard would that be? Because if the answer is very hard, that's exactly why you're still where you are. The system doesn't reward the person doing the most work. It protects them. It keeps them exactly where they are. Because moving you creates a problem, and companies don't like creating problems. They like solving them. And right now, you are the solution. That's why sometimes you'll see something that doesn't make sense. Someone who does less than you gets promoted before you. Someone who isn't as skilled gets more visibility than you. Someone who speaks confidently gets more recognition than you. And it feels unfair, because it is. But it's not random, because promotions aren't based on effort. They're based on replaceability. If you're easy to replace, you're easy to move. If you're hard to replace, you stay where you are. And then there's something else, something most people ignore. The things that don't happen. The meetings you weren't invited to, the conversations you weren't included in, the decisions that were made without you. At first, you assume it's a mistake. They forgot. It wasn't important. It didn't involve you. But when it keeps happening, it's not a mistake. It's positioning. Because information is control. And the less you know, the less influence you have. The less influence you have, the easier you are to manage. And then there's behavior, the way you act at work. You're respectful. You're cooperative. You don't push back too much. You don't want to cause problems. You want to be seen as someone easy to work with. And that sounds like a good thing. But in most environments, it makes you predictable. You say yes. You take on more. You adapt. You adjust. You tolerate. And over time, that becomes your identity. Not the person who leads. Not the person who challenges things, but the person who handles everything quietly. And predictable people don't get power, they get used. Now think about loyalty. You stay committed. You don't jump around. You give your time, your energy, your focus. You assume that consistency will eventually be rewarded. But loyalty without leverage is just obedience. Because if there's no consequence to keeping you where you are, why would anything change? And then there's visibility. One of the most misunderstood parts of work. You think effort is enough, that if you do the work, people will notice. But that's not how it works. Because work that isn't seen doesn't exist. Someone else speaks once in a meeting, and suddenly they're recognized. They're remembered. They're considered. While you've been delivering results quietly for weeks, and it goes unnoticed. Not because it's not valuable, but because it's invisible. So now you're in a position where you're doing more than most people. You're relied on more than most people, but you're seen less than the people moving ahead. And that creates confusion, because from your perspective, you're doing everything right. But from the system's perspective, you're exactly where you need be. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. Because at some point, you start participating in it. You take on extra work without being asked. You stay silent when something feels off. You avoid conflict. You prioritize being liked over being respected, and without realizing it, you reinforce your position. You make it easier for them to keep you there. So when you look back at all the missed opportunities, the promotions that didn't happen, the recognition that never came, it doesn't feel random anymore. It feels structured. And that's the realization most people avoid. You're not stuck because you're not good enough. You're stuck because you're useful. Useful people don't get moved, they get maintained. And the moment you understand that, everything starts to look different. You start noticing patterns. Who gets visibility? Who gets access? Who gets opportunities? And more importantly, why? Because once you see the system, you stop blaming yourself. And when you stop blaming yourself, you finally have a chance to change your position. Not by working harder, not by doing more, but by understanding what actually moves people forward. Because it was never about effort. It was about positioning. And now you see it.